This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call to order the April 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting to order at 7 p.m. I'll rise to the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda tonight? If not, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilor Wagner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Webb, call the roll, please, Stephanie.
Councilor Webb?
Aye.
Councilor Ash?
Aye.
Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Councilor Wagner?
Aye.
Councilor Normand?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Well, we do have a presentation tonight, a Peachtree Award, and from the Oregon Department of Forestry, we're glad to have Jim Kirschbach with us tonight.
Mayor Hobart, council members, thank you for giving us a few minutes to recognize one of your fellow patients. So as said, I'm Jim Gershbach. I do work for the Oregon Department of Forestry, but I'm also a member of the board of a nonprofit in Oregon called Oregon Community Trees. Now, each year, our organization recognizes individuals who've had outstanding efforts to promote trees in their local community. And this year, we're very proud to honor one of Vernonia's younger residents, Michael Calhoun. If you recall, in December of 2007, Vernonia suffered a devastating flood that damaged or destroyed much of this town. Now, Michael witnessed the remarkable resolve of the citizens and the leaders of this town to recover and rebuild from that disaster. And he felt that it would be wonderful to commemorate that spirit of resiliency with an appropriate symbol. So when he learned of a program that the Oregon Department of Forestry, where I work, was offering to provide trees, a limited number of young trees that have been grown from the seeds of trees, collected from trees that had survived the atom bombing of Hiroshima in 1945, he jumped at the chance and applied to the Oregon Department of Forestry to get one for Vernonia. One of these coveted trees, I should say. So what makes these trees special? Why bring one of these to Vernonia? Well, back in the spring of 1946, when those few survivor trees miraculously leafed out amid the blackened ruins of Hiroshima, where all the buildings were leveled, they became symbols of hope and resiliency to the shattered survivors of that city, many of whom were not sure if they were even going to survive because of lingering radiation sickness and whatever. How do you come back from something like that? So Michael recognized that those saplings grown from those trees, that they symbolize that same spirit that he'd seen here in Vernonia, that ability to survive and rebuild and recover after disaster. And so he worked diligently with officials here in the city and arranged a place for a peace tree in Orovolmeyer Park. The tree, a ginkgo, was planted out last year, and Michael arranged for a very special public dedication with the guest of honor, none other than the Council of Japan for Oregon, who was extremely moved that a town of this size was connected to that important history. So in recognition of Michael's efforts to place Vernonia among only 36 Oregon cities and towns to be home to one of these special trees, I would like to present him with this plaque recognizing his efforts on behalf of the city of Vernonia. So if you'll join me in applause as he
You went a little fast there. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. We'll do one more.
Sure.
And one more.
And I want to thank the council and the Parks Committee also for their efforts and combined bringing this tree to Vernonia. It was really great to have it and to be here for generations.
Well, they can live hundreds of years, so maybe several generations.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was awfully quick. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was able to be at the dedication and like most of the council was, or last year. So it was a nice day. Nice to meet the man from Portland. I can't remember what he said he was from.
Consular.
Consulate.
Yeah, consulate.
Consulate from.
Yeah, it was a good day. Okay, I do not have a mayor's report today. Are there any council committee meeting reports tonight?
Excuse me. I went to the Parks Committee.
Okay.
Pretty much the whole meeting, they just worked on finalizing this update that we're gonna look at tonight, so the ordinance 914. So no real takeaways other than that. They were curious, their only question coming out of the meeting was what the next steps are. Grant process for the Lake Campground, now that we have the members identified for the panel that's gonna choose the design firm. So I spoke with Josette and I think getting the ball rolling on that. So
Good.
that's good.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Dale.
Yeah, Public Works Committee had their meeting. And we kind of keep coming back to, so we have an ordinance that sets up our committees, 880, I believe it is. But each committee is formed under a resolution. And under the resolution, it talks about, the membership organization and the rules. And I don't know if this is with all
It is, I looked it up today.
okay,
They all have that last line.
So, yeah, under section 6 and then F, the committees may make studies, hold hearings, prepare reports and recommendations on its own initiative or at the request of the city council. So with our liaison process, there's some committee members viewing that as kind of interceding with what they say, this is our powers. It says we can just on our own initiative do these things. And of course, I remind them that you can do that, but this body up here is going to have final say if you do all that work. And then for some reason, either council or staff has a good reason why this can't go forward, well, then we're spinning our wheels. So I don't know if it's something we need to address or, modify this statement or, I mean, I understand once they have a subject and are trying to move forward, I mean, I could see where they could have a public hearing to have the public come in to give input or something on an idea, but so anyhow, there's a few members that are kind of keep pushing this issue and they go, well, it's contrary to what you're telling us. So
What do they see as contrary?
because we're basically, what I'm telling them, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because the last meeting, and Michael just stepped out, we were talking about some lighting standards. And, because we did direct back that, yes, we want them to look into this further. Well, the question came up, is West Oregon Electric, do they have a standard? I mean, what's this relationship between the city and West Oregon? Does the city have any say on what they put up for street lighting?
Yeah.
Or do they even have a standard they're following? Are they, what bulbs are they using? So anyhow, and I go, okay, well, this is a good example. Because the way I'm being told is, yes, you can go over there, talk to the manager or whoever over there and gather information. But your goal is to bring it back to the committee with the goal of reaching a consensus and saying, this is something we want to further investigate, move on, or not.
We're recommending.
And then I would bring that back to the council, and then staff and council would, give the blessing. So that they're thinking that that process in a way is interfering. So it's the one thing I'm running up against. And I don't know if we need to have a further meeting on it or whatever.
So I, in hearing kind of the frustration from Parks Committee that kind of went down last month, and they thought we were gonna address the ordinance before they were ready. And council saying, well, this wasn't brought to us beforehand. So I think it's important for the committees to know if they are gonna act on, their own initiative without running it by council first. It's like assumed risk, right? If it's something they feel strongly about, and I understand the concept, they felt frustrated for two things. One was because it's kind of a lack of empowerment to the committee. Why am I volunteering to be on a committee if council's going to do what council wants anyway? What's our role? And then two is that they feel that some topics are going to have complexities and information coming from statistics or the community or whatever else. And until they do that work, they don't think they can paint a full picture to council for fair consideration, right? If they just brought us an idea and didn't have any compelling argument behind it, and we just say no, then they kind of are getting cut off before they can really make their case. And so as I've conveyed to them through that process with the 914 thing was, I can't speak for council, and I know there've been challenges with this type of thing in the past. And so if you are going into this knowing that and choosing to do it anyway, without getting council approval and direction first, then that's your choice. But at least then they know. So, the things I've heard in the past where people just kind of assumed, or maybe were given a false impression that council was more on board than they were, and then they felt hurt that they wasted their time and energies. As long as we're mitigating that and making sure that part is clear to them, that if you're acting on your own initiative, you're assuming your own risk for the time and energy you put in. I think that that's fair. I don't think it's fully fair to say, well, you can't do anything unless we tell you you should do it, because then I understand then why they feel disempowered, if that's the case. So I like that it says that, and I think it's a balance between the two.
My thinking on it, as far as an idea that comes before a committee, is that they don't just bring an idea, through a liaison back to our council. Maybe they need to do more due diligence and homework and preparation to gather a consensus within the committee. And once they have a consensus from the committee, and then they relay it to the liaison in their meeting, and then the liaison brings it back to us and staff, and whether it's feasible or not. And I think that's a good way. That's the process we use right now. And but if they just come, I don't know, if they just have an idea that was presented in one meeting, and I don't know, I think they need to do more research and as a committee. Dale.
So, yeah, but part of the problem with that process is a lot of times they need information from staff. And if it's something that then takes quite a bit of staff time, then we run into a conflict. Can. Again, it's, allocating the city's resources. I mean, it's just kind of a sticky wicket. I agree with you. What I've been funneling them is go out, like this lighting thing, go out, gather what you can for information, come back to the table, mull it over. Is this worth going forward with? What are the ideas? Then we bring that back to council, get the blessing, then go back. And then at that time, and again, if it's a project that's going to take some staff time, then we're going to have to weigh that as a council as to, we're going to, staff's going to have to say yay or nay. They have time to deal with, a project, or to provide information.
So I would assume, but maybe I'm wrong, is there no kind of rule about how much staff time they can use without council approval? Because there's rules for council about how much staff time we can use without council.
I looked at it, just cursory glanced at it, the resolutions today. I don't know, is there in there?
Maybe that's something we would want to add then, because, yeah, if they're doing their own research with
Yeah.
outside parties or community members, that's different than tying up city resources and funds in the process. But I would think since we have, we just went over the council rules and there was something in there.
Yeah.
So I don't see why we wouldn't have at least that amount, if not more, for just a committee. Maybe that's something to consider.
What would be wrong with a committee member coming in and Josette has an open door policy and just sitting down and saying, got this idea?
Well, no, and usually I like the chairs of the committees to come in and kind of run down what's on their plate so that we're not surprised. I mean, we all kind of have a no surprise rule, right? They shouldn't be surprising council with something that the liaison hasn't brought.
Yeah.
And if, I could tell them, hey, the pitfalls from this would be money or whatever the pitfalls would be. Yeah, I mean,
for example, I'm on the senior board. I'm a senior board member and a liaison, and I attend the meetings. And if there's an issue that comes up, we usually have it on the agenda for information back to the city. I gather that and bring it back to Josette, and we discuss it. And I go back and report to the committee, and it works very well. And but that's what.
So that's
why I asked if a committee member could just come and maybe there's one simple question and it'll.
I think they all do that. Do you feel confident that if a committee was bringing something to you that was going to be very time consuming for staff, that you would flag that or bring it to us? So, okay.
I would.
Yeah. And if they're going to use 20 hours of city time,
I think
it being on our radar, it's concerning.
what seems a little odd in their concern about it is really you guys are the deciding body. So you think they would want you in the loop with them on what they're thinking about doing so that they don't? I don't see it as so much versus as like collaborating. It's a little weird. They don't want to talk to anybody before they want to talk to somebody. But that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, Susan, I'm sorry.
So, no, don't be sorry.
We need an oval.
So, as it relates to your comment, I can understand actually them having the committees having a little bit of discomfort having a liaison, because it's kind of like the boss sitting over you all the time. So there is that kind of, do we have to watch what we're saying in front of this person? And that's not the intent of the liaison. The intent is that we are there to be ears to their discussions and for them to, from my understanding, because I didn't go through the last training, that it is our job to be that kind of avenue for them to present us to come, or to the liaison to come to council. And then from council going, back to them once it's been brought here. The way we used to do it was committee members would come to council and just have a bounce off, just want to let you know, this is what we're thinking of proposing to work on. And so that there was not that monthly interaction with those committees, or bi-weekly, whatever it is when they're working on a project. So for one thing, there are some committees like mine I'm going to miss again because it's Wednesday and I'm going to be picking up a child from Washington, grandchild. So I'm not going to be able to attend. So that is a missing piece, that we're not having representation as council at every meeting. So we're not having that ability for them to come forward and say, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think? I don't think library is quite the group that comes up with inventive ideas that they need to run by council. But I think there needs to be a general practice of being engaged and inclusive without being overbearing. And I don't know that really happens, but how do we, and again, I think that was covered in the training, not getting too involved in the committees, just being more of an observer and a conduit for the discussion back and forth.
Well, and I think the worksheet that staff has given to you guys at the bottom says like ideas on the horizon or something about forward coming ideas, just so that someone could report on them and plant the seed of they're talking about this. Maybe you don't have any of the answers or it's not been fully fleshed out, but they're talking about it.
Yeah.
And that it can just be as simple as that too. Just they're looking at the Dark Skies Initiative or they're looking at this.
Well, not every committee is the same either.
Right.
Different. And I was just counting the city parks in our city. There's 9 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Certain ones have bigger loads to carry.
There's one in
Some are
Scappoose.
like sub-parks.
So the Parks Committee is, that's a big entity in itself. Just saying. You got a big job.
It's going great.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think we get along well.
So are you guys interested in at all in maybe, I think to do individual resolutions is probably problematic. I don't think we want to do all the resolutions, but maybe amending 880 to talk about staff time,
Yeah, I'd have to look at 880 and see.
because I think it's similar.
In there somewhere.
But 880 would be one ordinance we would amend to cover what you guys want as far as how much staff time can be asked of before it comes to you. Maybe just change that. That's the umbrella one and not the individual resolutions, because that's kind of problematic logistically.
I
But
know staff wanted to update 880 anyways to put a distance limit on how far away committee members could.
the out of town residents, at one point we had somebody that was
Redmond,
in Redmond
I think we should have.
because they were here, but then they moved and they stayed part of it. But maybe you want a distance.
Distance would be nice.
Yeah.
Council has a distance, planning commission has distance. I think all committees should have a distance.
Yeah. So that's another thing. That one would kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone of amending what you guys want for time of staff before it has to be formally approved by you guys, and then the distance. Is there consensus that you want us to bring that back to you?
Sure.
Okay.
About
Is there any consensus on the amount of time? Do you want it to match your council rules? Or I think it's not much more time less than council rules, right? I mean, what is it, like 15 minutes or
I
something?
was gonna, what stuck in my mind is 30 minutes, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I would argue to match it with what your guys' is, because I don't think a committee should be allowed to have more time than a counselor. And these are projects, not just sitting in there and getting updates. These are, we want you to put together a spreadsheet and work on this project.
Right.
It's not just updates.
So do you want us to propose it with the matched councils? So that,
That'd be fine.
and then if you feel differently about it, it'll just be proposed. Okay.
I mean, I see two sides to I see, well, we have more access to you guys at meetings and things like that, rarely are we needing to really max out our time.
Right.
But they also have us as liaisons who can go and get the info from you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's,
Sorry.
okay.
And then are you guys going to propose the distance or is that something we need to talk about?
I think
I'll propose 5 miles, just like planning commission.
that's still usually in the
City.
fire district and zip code and everything. School
That'll be
district.
an ordinance 880
Yeah.
amendment.
Because I think the out of town, it relates to out of town.
But that doesn't go very far out Keezy. We already have,
It goes to Creekview.
does it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it goes all the way out, doesn't it?
it goes quite, I think it,
Creek Tree's fine.
yeah, but I would argue that it's the same. And we can bring it back.
Yeah,
Well, you might just
we
want
can
to,
show you a buffer on the map of where that would hit too.
you might just want to look at the committee members we have, make sure, because we don't want to exclude
Yeah.
someone who's already serving.
Or,
Well, we will be. Someone is in Redmond.
Well,
yeah, so, and it would be new, I would think it would be new members. You wouldn't,
Yeah, I'll put verbiage in there and you guys can amend the miles when we bring it.
yeah, we'll show you a buffer and then it could be with new members, not current or something.
Yeah, so just like when, real quick, sorry, when the committees were established,
Mhm.
again, with 880, they put in there that after these terms, they would be staggered. So that now it's not in there because it's void, so we got rid of it. But we can put verbiage in there that once terms expire, then you have to meet these requirements.
Good, Susan.
So could we also maybe see an overlay of the fire district?
Yeah, we can bring you ones with the boundaries, what 5 miles looks like, what the fire district, school district,
Yeah,
that's easy to do. And
I think that would be a good way of doing it because there are a lot of people within that community who still use Vernonia services because they consider themselves part of our town.
Okay.
Thank you. As long as that's okay with everyone else.
No, we can bring that back.
Okay, any other committee meeting reports? Thank you. Any topics from the floor tonight? Okay, thank you. Consent agenda for acceptance, Park Committee meeting minutes for February 2023.
Move to accept the consent agenda for acceptance, Parks Committee minutes for February 2023.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
yes, real quick. Counselor Norman,
Aye.
Counselor Ash,
Aye.
Counselor Wagner,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Mayor Hilbert,
Aye.
motion carried.
Thank you. Consent agenda for approval, City Council work session minutes for March 13th, 2023. On page 5. Dale, I usually have cough drops.
I got a bunch of them here, but it
Those
ain't-
are cough drops? All right.
I need whiskey instead.
We didn't bring that.
Yeah.
Next time.
I move, unless somebody else wants to move.
Go ahead.
I move to the consent agenda for approval.
And so moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Counselor Webb. Would you call the roll again, please, Stephanie?
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Wagner,
Aye.
Counselor Norman,
Aye.
Counselor Ash,
Aye.
Counselor Webb.
Aye.
Great.
Thank you. Moving right into unfinished business, ordinance 914, smoking restrictions and parks discussion. Everyone have a copy of the ordinance, red line? Josette sent these out via email today.
Yeah.
I got to read through there, so.
So I thought more parks members were going to be here to kind of go through the changes and what warranted them. A lot of it, as you can see, is just kind of grammatical or updates of what they're calling the inhalant delivery devices. Now it's a system. So that's changed a little bit. They did tweak a little bit of what in the definitions section, as you can see. And then they just really kind of reorganized the smoking and inhalant delivery device regulations, which is weird that it wasn't a system. But in their track changes on the heading, I didn't change all of theirs. I just matched what they gave me. But potentially that heading would be inhalant delivery system regulations. But really it was just more of an organization. It still states pretty much what was stated. It just bullet lists the parks in the different headings. So that's what I just am presenting what they presented.
So I was expecting them to be here, but I can speak definitely to the origin of each of the changes. So the systems and then all of the updated definitions are coming from the county and state as this is what is being used now. So those are just updates to match in the 7 or 8 years since the ordinance was passed. We've seen kind of a widespread update in a lot of the verbiage and things like that. The distance in the original ordinance had 25 feet for some things and 50 feet for other things, and they felt that that was confusing. There's also clear research that at 25 feet, not all particulates in the air have dissipated, so they chose to update to align to the farther amount based on that research. And then the changing of the way the parks are listed was because some parks had listed in more than one category. So you see like Spencer Park, I think previously was listed under categories that had designated smoking areas and parks that had smoke-free areas, which having a designated smoking area kind of mutually excludes it needing to have a smoke-free area because everything outside of the designated smoking area is inherently a smoke-free area. So just cleaning that up because it was quite easy to misconstrue having parks in multiple categories. So that was really kind of the driving behind each of the changes.
Susan, you have.
So I appreciate all the hard work, as always. I know it's a challenge. My only, I know that language was likely taken from the recommended language. My concern is when you define things, somebody is going to say, but you didn't say I couldn't do this particular whatever. And I would just ask that in line 7 or item 7 in section 1, that you simply add in the second sentence, or I'll just read it, tobacco products, in quotes, means any product that contained, is made from, or is derived from tobacco or natural or synthetic nicotine, such as, I would add the phrase, but not limited to products, to those products. So that would be my only recommendation, because somebody who somebody could make a decision to find something that's not listed. Yeah, it's not listed, they'd say, but it's not listed there. And so I just think that it's just good practice.
So where such is, it should say including but not limited to cigarettes.
Yeah, such as but not limited to, yeah. Again, assuming the council agrees.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also, that colon after means is not correct grammar. And it's not in the other definitions.
So I would just. No, it's just how it was. I just did exactly what her Google Doc had, so I just really changed it exactly, so.
I would suggest for grammatical accuracy.
I'm going to back up to the systems, the change from devices to system. Not real intelligent. I do have some common sense, and I haven't smoked for a long time. But what do you mean by systems?
That just is across the board how they're referring to it now. I'm not sure why.
I think this includes chew and stuff like that, not just devices that you would use to. So like before it focused on vapes, cigarettes, things like that, pipes, things like that, versus now what their version is, it includes a lot more tobacco.
So that's true of the definition for tobacco products, but not for the smoking and inhalant delivery device
Right.
systems use, because the committee did discuss moving to tobacco-free, which would include no form of tobacco, and they did not choose to go down that road. They chose to stay with only airborne, so smoking and inhaled.
This in tobacco products, it lists.
That's just the definition, though. I don't think it's saying that is.
Susan.
So I think that gets solved by actually changing the definition of item 2 to match where you have changed everything from devices to systems. So an inhalant delivery device would be an inhalant delivery system, means a device that can be used to deliver, et cetera.
Yeah.
So the reason that wasn't, I mean.
I just copied it word for word with what Parks gave me, so I don't know why Parks didn't change device everywhere.
I think that got missed in the final version. I think it should be systems.
I agree.
So 2, it should say inhalant delivery system means a system.
No, a device. I believe that. So inhalant delivery system, I think.
Means a device that can be
A
used.
device that can be used to deliver.
Okay.
So just changing the first device then.
Yeah.
Right. And then to that.
And then on the number 2 heading should say, where it says device should say system. Section 2 heading.
Right.
They didn't change that one either.
And then also in the bottom line on that same page, so that number 1 there. Parks where smoking and inhalant delivery devices are prohibited. That should say systems as well.
Okay. So because your council rules say any change to an ordinance has to have 10 days posted for the public, this is just a discussion. So if you guys would like this version to come back, then we would bring that back to you with the posting requirements and all the, following all the rules.
So what?
So just a clarifying question, section 3. Exemptions for campsites. So am I taking that those are A and B? So either you're in a designated campsite within a park, you can,
Yeah.
smoking is allowed, or if you're in the park but not in a designated campsite, you could smoke in your personal property, car, boat, camper, RV.
Yeah, so they took that out of.
Yeah, seen that.
Yeah, because it was weird where it was. It implied that, it basically said that if you rent a campsite, that campsite's now your personal property.
It is. I mean, that's how,
Yeah, you have the rights to it right now,
but you have the right to smoke
Yes.
in there as if you've rented it, like a motel room is your personal property when you rent it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what if that campsite's within 50 feet?
Exactly.
It's excluded
Doesn't
from
matter?
the whole policy. It
Okay.
does not matter.
Okay.
That's
I didn't know if we
the intent.
needed to have a clarification in here or not.
No.
Gonna ask that too.
I'm trying to figure out where the,
in section 2, so.
200 feet away, you can smoke in your camp.
and that will mean that someone fishing on the lake could also smoke.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're all in
in
this,
their open boat.
in a boat,
About,
Yeah.
Because it's a vehicle.
because it's their personal,
oh yeah, it was on the page before.
yeah, it's number 6.
One, item 3. And then, yeah, section
Oh, sorry, not 6,
3.
3, yeah. So they just pulled it out to really clarify it.
So yeah, because basically the way it was originally under section 1, item 3, it implied that once you've rented a campground space, that is now your personal property. Instead of just, and that was basically saying that's outside of the designated smoking area. Instead of this, she suggested moving it to inclusion. So it's basically saying the whole policy doesn't apply, not even just the designated smoking area. It's just excluded from the entire.
I think we should change section 3 heading though to something. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think.
so it's clear. Yeah. I do have a little bit of section 4, number 2. That's a lot of words to get on one sign. And it's probably not going to be super clear the way like a symbol with a smoke-free area or some more simple verbiage to have like the 800 quit now and it's a lot of words. And the words are going to end up being that big or the sign's going to end up being that big.
I was wondering about that. I don't know if the bottom part just is tiny on the bottom or we could push back and say we want to see in an ordinance, can we see a mock-up of how the sign would look and ask the committee to provide that?
Yeah, and I don't even know that it needs to be in the ordinance.
Doesn't.
Because then you're kind of like writing something that can't easily be changed.
Mhm.
So unless you don't put it in quotes, if you simply say the signs shall contain information such as,
Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking is a little concerning to me is putting the word marijuana on a sign, because I think some kids are going to steal that for their room.
Oh, yeah.
goodness gracious.
They're gonna what, Joseph?
Steal it for their room.
Really?
Like, be like, look what I got off the city, the sign that says marijuana on it. Like, we just don't need them to want anything we have if we can help it.
I mean, maybe you just take the second sentence out and just say, this is a smoke-free park. Thank you for not smoking or against.
Or we just take the second whole section out and council tells staff to work with Parks Committee to come up with sign verbiage that meets their expectation, but also doesn't have us putting gigantic signs.
Mhm.
It is one of the things that wasn't in there because it kind of leaves it, if the verbiage changes, we don't have to go back and
Right.
mess with it.
Do we just say something like posted signs shall display?
But it's all added in by the Parks Committee. So
Right, but that's what I mean. So
what's their reasoning for not just
I think that was
outside of the ordinance?
one of the recommended changes
Oh,
that came down. So, I mean, it could just say that posted signs shall display messaging agreed upon by council and the committee. Whatever you guys decide it is.
yeah, or just take out the quotes. We'll display words such as, like Susan said.
Yeah.
Then we can just leave it, just take out the quotes and it's like, it's going to have, because maybe you do put Morgan's quit line on every sign, just because that's easy to do with the 800 number. The only tricky part is if the 800 number changes to some new fangled number, then your ordinance contains the 800 number.
The Oregon's quit line number.
Yeah, or something.
And generally, those are very
Little.
small.
Parts of it.
And I'll give you my typographical changes later.
Well, I saw there were some things. I copied it exactly. I know like such is misspelled in one. I have other ones.
And like 4.
Yeah. That I saw, but I didn't tweak it because I was trying to just be as true to their version for them not to say, you didn't include that.
We appreciate it.
So we're going to quit line number and then take the quotes off. Is that how you guys want to see it in your, because whatever version we post potentially will become your ordinance. So I'd like to have it as close to what you want.
I personally like 2 sentences in here. This is a smoke-free park. I like that.
Mhm.
And then quit line 800 now. Those 2.
Yeah.
My opinion.
No, are there requirements?
For what? What you put up?
Yeah.
It usually would just say, this is smoke-free park or smoke-free, and then the ordinance reference.
Right.
But usually ordinances don't stipulate what would be on, wouldn't say, this is what we want on the sign.
That's a outside.
Ordinance is the law.
I
Because
mean, it's already saying it has to have the signs. Why don't we just take it out?
Yeah, number 1 is enough. Number 2 is just redundant and micromanaging.
Okay. Just take number 2 out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ordinances don't have required verbiage in it for signage.
But we'll know, I mean, in working up the draft signage and the placement, I already talked to Sharice about coming to their meeting. Does this symbol encompass, if we want, because certain areas are only going to have a small space. We're going to want something that just really tells them what we're expecting, not all the words, because a lot of people don't read the words.
So, question. I am raising it. I'm trying to train myself to raise the hand. With all of the no smoking changes regarding building distance, can't smoke within 10 yards, 20 yards, 50 feet, whatever it is, that was by public buildings. Was there any standardized language? We don't have to get into that now. I'm just wondering if that's a resource.
You mean from the state?
Yeah, the state and federal
So
government.
the state rule is still 10 feet.
Right, but was there any, just something to look at?
I don't think there was any verbiage. We're just going off of the public health person saying what it is now. I don't know that there was anything when we did it.
I'm just, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, because we're going to have some areas that are non-smoking, some parks that have designated smoking areas or no smoking within 50 feet. If there was a standardized way of visualizing that.
Not that I've found.
So, and that's fine. I've
Yeah.
looked at that. Well, thank you.
Yes. Because when we proposed the original signs, we were going off of what existed in other parks. And you guys had that in like a couple packets ago. Yeah.
Okay, anything else on 914? Ready to move on then? Okay. New business, temporary street closure request, pet fair.
Holly Vaughn, 501 Madison Avenue. 17, 18, 19, we did a pet fair. It was great. It was small. It was over at the pet store at the time. Now we have Christine here owning the pet store. We're going bigger. We're going. So we're hoping to close the street on May the 6th from prep time, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with closure of cleanup and all that. Barricades, ends. We have about, I don't know how many, 10 or 12 people, vendors, but we plan on having more, but we don't want to check into them until we know for sure how much space we have. Because when we, across the street, we had, maybe a dozen booths and it was tight. We have a lot of stuff planned and we'd like to have a really big day and we'd like to continue doing this yearly, at least Chris would like to. And I think it'd be a lot of fun, another event. festival type thing. The only thing that Josette and I did speak about that could be a problem, but it isn't, we'll fix it, is the library is open that day. So we would put on our barricade on the far end, something that says library entrance here. People will go in backwards. We all do it. We all know that people are going backwards from time to time. And if they get lost and they don't know what to do, we can guide them how to get in. We're not going to block the actual. But we're going to have to, let them know that it's not available to go in the normal way. And I spoke to Brandy about it, and she said that was perfectly fine. She didn't mind. And we are coming to council to ask if we can close the street for that day for our pet. You guys vote on this, or do we get to hear it tonight, or?
Well, we can give approval tonight, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Everyone read the application, understand it all? Any more questions for Holly?
You guys have anything you want to say? This is Lisa Moss. She's my partner in crime with the animals. She fosters a lot of animals in town when they're running loose. And now that we have the kennel, it's awesome, but we've never used it. We don't really plan to. But we had extra money from the dog park and we needed to spend it. So and I know in the past it had been used, and there will be a time that it gets used occasionally. And also we had, not this really has anything to do with it, but we are going to put a phone number on that kennel. So they'll be using CCOM to contact. If PD's not available, and if we're not available, because all three of us have our phone numbers listed as CCOM, and if they're, then they will go down the line of who to contact, and the phone number will be on the kennel. And that's about it. These girls have been working really hard with keeping the animals in tow in town, helping me, because I need all the help I can get.
I saw somewhere, is it correct that the proceeds are going towards a chip scanner?
Yeah,
That's,
so we'll have a chip scanner in town, and it'll stay at the pet store.
yeah.
And if anyone needs to get an animal chip, we'll have it available for them. Anything we make above and beyond, we had talked briefly about putting it towards people that need help, because Lisa and I always have people, and Christian, where, if you only knew. People need help when they're, have an animal that's sick and it's either put it down or somebody who needs to help them. So we'll have a little fund going and see what we can do for people that need help.
Good.
Anything else? No? Any other questions? Okay.
I just think that the improvements since Christine has taken over the pet store are incredible, and it's an asset to our community. So I'm all for it.
Okay, you just need a general consensus, or would you like
A
a
motion because of
motion for the street?
traffic.
I'll move that we approve the temporary street closure request form for Holly Vaughn.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Counselor Wagner. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councilor Webb,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilor Norman,
Aye.
Councilor Wagner.
Aye.
Motion carried.
You're good to go.
Welcome. Business from the departments. None tonight. Citizen resolutions. Any correspondence?
No.
City administrator report.
Okay, so the new electrical lines were placed in the conduit. They did energize the new panel. They are requiring us to move the deck that's under the current panels and build a platform underneath the ones on the snack shack side because they're too far from the ground. But our electrician's going to be taking down the panels on the back of the grandstands. They're very expensive pieces of equipment we could use should we ever have another project that requires that much power go through it. So we're going to save those up above the Public Works office. But once he gets those down, then Mitch is going to deconstruct and reuse the steps and the deck under the new area.
Cool.
And then once that happens, those assets are off there, then we can move forward. I did send Rob an email to ask him to ask Banks and Mist, because he said those would be the 3 fire firms that need to participate with him, because he doesn't have capacity to do it on his own. If they're a no-go, then we go out for bid. So that's kind of where we're at with that. The decommissioning of the old dump off of Noakes, they would like to do some testing of the well in late spring, early summer. That's when they feel like the aquifer would show them if there's leakage or seepage from the dump. And if those contaminants are found to be ones that are associated with landfills, then we match their orphan site project. If it's just normally occurring natural contaminants or a non-producing well with things that occur in nature, then we don't meet their criteria. So that's what we're gonna test the well up at Mary Ann's and then find out what we can do. Staff's working on the flotation idea and the grading. And then we're going to come back to council with an authorization to apply for the R&E, the Restoration and Enhancement grant through ODFW. The engineer and I were up on 6th Street talking about a stormwater issue with the neighbors up there because they have some stormwater issues going on. And one of the neighbors came to us about the boat ramp, which Jeff's going to be getting some pit run in there in the interim. And then our engineer's going to get us an estimate of, because they've designed a lot of boat ramps in St. Helens, Scappoose area, Lower Columbia has. So they're going to get us an estimate of if we were going to do a boat ramp project, what would the design cost? But in that discussion with the neighbors up on 6th, one of the requests was when we go for the fishing dock grant, could we include a dock down one side, not with railings or anything, but an actual floating dock down one side of the boat ramp, so that people could get their boat out, tie it off to something, walk, park their truck, walk back, get in, or get people that aren't able to get in when it's in the low water. And so we think that probably would match, and that ODF&W probably wouldn't have any issue with anglers accessing there as well so that we would go for the 2 fishing docks and then the boat ramp dock at the same time. So that's kind of our plan, is to have it kind of encompass everything. And then the ramp getting a final fix would be maybe a next step after we get through with making the docks better. The CBA has been signed by both parties, so that's good. The bummer part about it is it expires at the end of 24, because it was a 2018 document that we got stalled on for all those times and we didn't have more than 1 member. So it'll expire again and we'll be back at it in a short time. So we're working on we're going to end up getting 2 porta potties, an ADA one and a standard one, and those will be placed at the lake so that Mitch can close the buildings, do all the painting, the walls, the removal of the toilets for the floor finishing. So they'll be coming pretty soon, and they'll probably be here a month. So just heads up that the Vernonia Lake, in order to do the restroom restoration, we're going to need porta potties there. Another little thing that's not on here, that we've had 4 fires in the Spencer Park bathroom in 3 months. They believe they have some suspects, they're juveniles. So they're going to be being interviewed with their parents by the police. So the Spencer bathrooms are locked. At this point, we are spending so much money, we're just hemorrhaging money trying to keep them from being damaged. And I did push on the electrician to get the outlets in and the pole outlets installed so we can get the cameras up, because they're happening in the middle of the day or in the morning. or in the early afternoon. It's not something happening in the evenings where we couldn't maybe catch people on camera. So I did push the electrician like, okay, we had another garbage can catch on fire. But also this, whoever's doing it also went to Mini Mart and lit their bathroom garbage can on fire. And so they've now locked their restroom from anyone going, even patrons or customers. So yeah, it's been a bummer for damage and vandalism. So the projects the city electrician's currently working on is, like I said, he's removing the panels, installing entrance light at 26 was just a bare wire connect, which he's like, oh. In the olden days, they probably did that and it was fine, but he's going to put in a little panel. So we're all by the book. And then there's going to be a light at the picnic shelter that'll coincide with the outlet for the camera. That's going to be at the picnic shelter. And then all the other electrical plugs, in addition to like city hall lights that go out. We submitted our application. They amended it a little bit. And so I re-signed the Storm Ready City application. And then once their board approves it, which they believe they will, then they'll commission the sign and we'll have to schedule a unveiling and a placement. Potentially the going spot is above the high watermark sign because it's kind of storm. But if it's too big or it looks weird, potentially as you enter the town, kind of on a lower below, or off to the sides, similar to, I think Lions and Three Wheelers have their medallions there. So something near there that looks good. That's what I got.
Sure.
Has Blue Mountain done what they need to do for cameras? Are we only waiting on electric?
Yeah, they're waiting on us now.
Okay.
Yeah, because they did their footprint layout. They're waiting for the outlets and then they said they can easily pull the stuff and hook them up.
Are they thinking that both fires Saturday were the same suspects?
They're believing all the fires set are the same suspect.
Pretty ballsy to go back after the first one was already same evening.
We're thinking maybe it's someone that has an issue with fire.
Yeah, evidently.
Like they have, like something's not
Yeah.
connecting about fire and its danger and its damage and.
Yeah.
Speaking of fire, what's the status on the burnt structure on Rose Avenue right now?
We finally have that through. So we had a back and forth. They have gotten a contractor and it will be down within a month.
Oh, good.
They've gotten a contractor. They finally realize it's their responsibility. We will be supplying them with water from the water meter to cover themselves while they're taking it down, but they're going to be removing it.
Good. Dale?
Any timeline on the dig out for the pumps at the lake?
No, that's something I could ask. I know we talked to Robert about a number of things, but yeah.
Sure.
I know on the docks we're doing the grading and stuff as kind of a holdover fix. What is the holdover fix on the ramp?
No, the ramps are where there's getting grading.
Okay.
Ramps, all the marine plywood, it gets replaced with grading.
Okay.
The flotation is just bumping up the fronts of the dock so they don't tip.
Will that address the drop off concern with the ramp?
Oh, you mean that ramp? Sorry. I was talking fishing dock ramps.
Boats, I don't.
So there's a boat ramp that is where they launch boats into the lake.
Right.
That has the giant drop off and it has some really cool metal that eventually we will dig up from the mill and we will, depending on, as long as it's not too big, maybe take it to the museum. Because there's some cool, weird.
I thought they were brake shoes off the railroad cars.
I don't know.
I don't either, but.
I don't know. I've never seen anything like that design and I can't figure out what it did, but it's got these weird undulations with holes in the middle and then like a weird end that sticks up. But anyways, buried in the mud down there.
Okay.
Um,
Are we temporarily addressing the drop off or not?
Yeah, so Jeff's gonna walk pit run in.
Okay.
Basically, he's gonna backfill, right, and walk it in with the piece of equipment in layers. And then potentially we'll have to go out a little bit and pull that stuff so that you get to a depth
Mhm.
deeper. So he's gonna try and do what he can do with the backhoe, because he can do a lot with the backhoe. But then the in-water stuff, we might get Robert Watts. That's the plan, to get him in there with his excavator and kind of move that, because it goes flat and you're in about that much water.
Mhm.
And it's like a riverbed, just straight out forever, about that deep.
It's probably all the ramp material that's.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's just left
You
off.
see all the steelhead in there? They're acting like they're wanting to spawn on it.
Oh, man. Yeah, because it's so rocky. And we had Cassandra's grandson was like, where are they? And we're like, right there. And he's casting right to them, trying to get them, but they wouldn't bite. But yeah, so. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Josette.
You're welcome.
Items from the mayor and councilors.
So I just realized a few minutes ago that what I didn't see on this agenda was minutes from our last meeting. That was last Monday. Was that our last meeting?
2 Mondays ago?
It was Wednesday.
Wednesday. So that wouldn't have been able to get in the packet. So just a reminder that needs to be able to get into the next packet.
I was gone and nobody talked to me about that, so.
So we do that with your meeting, agenda setting with Josette. Awesome. Just want to make sure we were.
That would be,
Well, I think you
I
have
need
the,
somebody to come to me, Rick, to come to me to tell me what I need to do in order to make those minutes, because I have to go offline about it.
so what council meeting minutes we need to?
From last Wednesday.
Okay, all right.
Come meet with me. And there's no minutes from the meeting before because I was sick and then I was on vacation and now I'm back. So they will be done in May, which is a horrible distance, but it's a justified excuse.
the ones for the 20th.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to action item summary.
Okay. Staff's going to bring back ordinance 880 with the matching council's time to engage staff in the committee ordinance, and also match the distance buffer, change it from Redmond to 5 miles, and show you guys a school district map, rural fire department map, and what the 5 miles covers. So those three things, those three outlines on one map. We're going to bring back ordinance 914 with the appropriate posting times it's required, which I think will end up being a May 1st meeting, because we'll post it long enough. And your April 17th meeting is the public hearing for UGB, so we don't want to add anything to that. And then I'm going to get an answer for the dig out for the lake pumps, a date when that will happen. Anything else? Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for all attending this evening, and good work done tonight, I believe. So I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:10 PM. Meeting adjourned.